representative of the UN development program, certainly we see a concern with what is happening in the development and adoption of AI, in that there's no question, and we are very convinced, that AI can have such a powerful impact on sustainable development in a positive way. It can help us really close some of those gaps that we see in persistent development challenges. However, we know that the way that it is evolving now is not equitable. And if we do not have a kind of commitment to responsible use of AI, we fear that the AI equity gap could actually get worse, or inequality could get worse. And more so, it also can be harmful in some cases if we're not applying AI responsibly. So we want to get into then the point about how do we actually address some of those challenges, how do we get some of the measures in place, or the kinds of commitments, principles that we need to have as an overall community, especially in the international development community, but beyond, in terms of private sector and others as well, in terms of what are our commitments to making sure that we are deploying and using AI in a responsible way and building AI ecosystems. So this does tie in with a process that has been a feature of previous AI summits, as well as the Hamburg Sustainability Conference that is hosted every year in the city of Hamburg and sponsored by the government of Germany with other partners like UNDP and the city of Hamburg. And as part of that process, we have introduced a declaration on AI for sustainable development, the Hamburg Declaration. And so we'll talk about that a little bit in the context of this conversation, after exploring some of the kind of opening thoughts around multi-stakeholder partnerships in general. So I'm going to start off and introduce our panelists, and then we'll go through a couple of rounds of questions. Be thinking about your questions as well, because I think that we'll have time to go to you as well for a Q&A, and so happy to get your thoughts and get some interaction with the panel as part of this session. So with that, I have a very distinguished panel to introduce to you, and it's a real pleasure to have them here today. I would like to introduce, sitting on my left, Dr. Barbel Koffler, who's the Parliamentary State Secretary at Germany's Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. She's a long-standing champion of human rights and development, a member of the Bundestag since 2004, and she plays a key role in shaping Germany's global development agenda. Page turn here.
That's technical. Kind of wrong spelling.
Yes, exactly. We are also honored to have Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya, who's the chairperson and CEO of Salesforce South Asia, a transformative leader with over 4 decades of experience. She made history as the first woman chairperson of the State Bank of India, where she led one of the country's most significant digital transformation journeys. She oversees a huge part of Salesforce's business in this region and beyond, shaping how technology partnerships drive innovation, skills, and inclusive growth. We're also joined by Nakul Jain, who's the CEO and Managing Director of Wadhwani AI Global. Nakul is a mission-driven technology leader. He works to advance AI solutions for underserved communities across the Global South. And his team has done 40 deployments of AI, reaching more than 150 million people in use cases such as healthcare, agriculture, and education. And we're also joined by Dr. Sachin Lodha, who's the Chief Scientist and Head of Research at Tata Consultancy Services. He's a leader in cybersecurity and privacy research. He heads Tata Consultancy Services' work on trustworthy AI, quantum resilience, cloud de-risking, and privacy by design. And that is all about translating cutting-edge research into real-world award-winning innovation. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. Okay, so let us start. Dr. Koffler, I'd like to start with you, please. You represent the government perspective here on this panel. what do you think are the distinct roles of government, but also some of the other players like private sector, civil society, and international organizations, the roles that they play in building AI ecosystems that are both innovative and inclusive?
Well, should I do something? I use this one in the meantime. Yeah. Thank you for the question, and thank you for having me also as a representative of a government. But I'm very happy to be on a panel with scientists, with academia, and with private sector, because at the end of the day, artificial intelligence and how we shape really the future with that is depending on multi-stakeholder engagement. There has to be an engagement from all parts of society, and also including civil society, because it's a broad outreach in our societies we have to undertake. So that's why I think it's very important to discuss it. You were pointing out challenges and advantages of artificial intelligence. And I think there's the role of governments coming in. Because yes, there are tremendous advantages of artificial intelligence. In my sphere of politics, we discuss about how we can use that for detect diseases better through AI, cancer in various topics. We discuss about climate change and how we can make prediction applicable for everybody on the ground. We discuss about administration and the advantages in administration AI could offer. But at the end of the day, all those hopes will only come into reality if we shape that in a framework, in a legal framework, in a framework we coordinate with partners around the globe and within society, which makes all those advantages accessible for everybody, for all parts of society, for any citizen to address its government through AI conversation in its own language, for example, to smallholder farmers, if they get the chance to make use of it, to doctors in remote areas who can really then detect with the new technology diseases or whatever. So we have to close a gap. And I would say it's not an innovation gap, it's a power gap. Because innovative people are existing around the globe. Ideas are created around the globe in all spheres of society. I've been here on a panel or at a session with brilliant young Indian startup, how would I call it? People, I don't know, I forgot the English word, sorry. With brilliant people who were creating startups. And that is possible all over the globe. But the environment has to be there. And if you look how venture capital, for example, is distributed, and we know that I think it's 17% of venture capital only is in those parts of the world who are presenting more than 90% of the people. So we feel a power gap at the end of the day. If you look about where you have data center resources, it's even worse. Global North, it's almost all the data centers available capacity, and only 0.1% is somewhere in the Global South. So there is a big gap, and we have to overcome that gap. We have to close that gap, and I think that's something governments have to do also, and where they're utilized to create an environment, if it's coming to energy consumption, if it's coming to an enabling environment for research, if it's coming to skill training for everybody. I learned in one of the sessions that we should change our mindset and everybody should become a creator of, not only a user of artificial intelligence. But to do so, we have to invest in the mindset and in the skills of all users. We have to work on vocational training and university training to make research, education, and the needs of even small, medium-sized enterprises heard and linked together, to bring small, medium-sized enterprises into the position to participate also from that new technology, not only the big players. So all those things need framework and need governance, and we have to make sure that the outcome, the research, the results, the data sets are available for everybody. That's why we are also investing in open source. It's something we very much are aligned with the Indian ideas, because if we don't do so, the first things, the advantages are not for everybody, but sorry, I have to say, only for a few tech milliardaires. And that's probably not what we all are expecting from that technological revolution.
Thank you so much. So, okay, now it's working. So framework and governance, important factors to have in the multi-stakeholder partnerships. Arundhati, maybe let me turn to you with a very similar question, but taking this from the private sector perspective. How do you think the responsibility should be distributed between the different stakeholders, and what does industry or private sector companies, tech companies in this case, uniquely bring to the table, and where is partnership essential?
Thank you, and good morning, every one of you. I have been very fortunate in the fact that I have worked with two organizations. The one that I worked with initially was the State Bank of India, which is the largest bank in India, and also the bank that really and truly spearheaded the financial inclusion program of the current government, which is the PM Jan Dhan Yojana. And while doing that, I realized that any improvement in technology, if it is not really democratized, then it doesn't really have an impact. If you want it to have an impact, you need to democratize technology. That's the first thing. The second thing is, currently I work at Salesforce. And Salesforce, again, it was set up with the intention that business is a platform for change. We have what we call a one by one mission, which is we contribute 1% of our profits or equity, 1% of our products, and 1% of our time to the community, to the non-profit community. Of course, in India, it is 2% of the profits because that's what the law demands. And while doing that, we ensure that the non-profit sector not only has access to our products, but also knows how to use them and use them to the best of their abilities. Along with that, we also do a lot of work in skilling various people. So we call people who basically are trained in the Salesforce technology as trailblazers, and India has 3.9 million of them, the second largest after the US. And this is a community that has been literally nurtured by us. So it's not only a question of ensuring that we are getting our products out to the community, to the non-profit sector, to the various enterprises where we obviously, obviously market our products to them and then help them implement it in their organizations. But we are doing a lot of work on the skilling front as well, because we feel that is something that's very, very essential. Without that, India will not really be able to take the advantage of all that technology brings to it. But one thing is very clear in our heads, and that is that a populous nation like India can never really have the standard of living that it deserves unless technology is a part of the play. We tried this financial inclusion initiative for 15 long years before we actually were successful in 2014. And the reason for that was technology, because by that time, the Unique Identification Authority, which gave us a biometric marker to enable us to get the unique identification number, that helped us do the KYC. And second, the spread of the mobile networks enabled us to actually approach the 600,000 villages, which is India. Okay? Before this, we never had that connectivity. Now, it was because of this that these people then got accounts. 97% of these accounts were without any balances, and a lot of people asked us, was this merely a ploy? Was this merely, some kind of action without any meaning? But very soon we found that those accounts started getting money because the government could then target the subsidies they were giving to below poverty line people directly to its citizens without having to go through any middlemen. In fact, some politician at some point of time had said that only 13 paise for every 1 rupee of subsidy actually goes to the person who needs it. Here, when the money started flowing directly into the account, the whole of the rupee was going to the person who needed the subsidy. Now, over and above that, we then had the UPI, which is the Universal Payment Interface. And what did that do? That enabled even small customers and small shopkeepers to start actually taking money in a digital form. And because they were taking money in the digital form, these accounts of theirs, which had been opened, started showing a cash flow. And the moment an account has cash flow, bankers then become interested in lending you money because they know that there is a cash flow to sort of back it up, to enable you to repay it. So here is a person who was taking a loan of, say, 2,000 rupees, paying 10% a month, suddenly becomes eligible for that 2,000 rupees at 7% a year. Imagine the difference it can make in the life of that person. And this is all on account of technology. AI is not going to be anything different. AI is going to solve a lot of problems which otherwise in a populous nation like ours cannot be solved. And in order to solve it, we therefore need to understand people are eager to take it. They will take the technology because it improves their lives. But in order for them to take it, it's up to the policymakers to make those interventions to ensure that they are not being taken for a ride, that whatever is being offered to them is being offered in an ethical manner, that we are doing the right, we are creating the right kind of infrastructure to enable them to actually be able to access it, that the right to privacy of their data is properly maintained. So I think the policymakers, the people who are there, who are conducting all of this, they have a far bigger responsibility because adoption is not something which is a problem in India. Adoption will happen. As soon as people realize that it's helping them in their regular lives, adoption is not going to be a problem. There's not going to be any pessimism on adoption. And if you go to the floor where the expo is, you'll actually see people, how interested they are in finding out how it's going to improve their lives, okay? But it is people who make the policies, people who make the infrastructure available, people who actually make the initiatives available, who need to take the responsibilities. And companies like ours, we need to take the responsibility as to how we skill the people, enable them to understand what is good for them and what is not good for them, make them understand that there is both good and bad and they need to choose the better. They should not be, they should not be taken for a ride. So all of us have a role to play. And I think, we need to be aware of those roles and we need to play them well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So actually those two answers complement each other so nicely because as you were saying, Dr. Koffler, there's the governance and the framework, and this is key to the Indian experience as well. Government sets down the framework, the rails, but then private sector has such an important role in skilling, in innovating, in helping people be successful and interact with that. So I'm going to turn now to Nakul, and a question now, because your Wadhwani AI Global has done a lot of work in the space of multi-stakeholder partnerships and the rollout of AI for specific use cases. From your experience, where have multi-stakeholder partnerships already demonstrated tangible impact in terms of advancing responsible AI for development? And what are the conditions that helped ensure these collaborations translated into sustained impact rather than just remaining stalled?
Thank you for that question, Rob. Also, thank you for having me here. I hope it is working.
Yeah, I think it's working, but hold it.
All right. Okay. Yeah. No. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So, my answer will be from my experience of deploying some of these solutions on field, and what has worked for us, what has not worked for us. Now, what we have realized that building technology, at least for an application organization like ours, is the most easiest part of the entire spectrum. It's everything around it that becomes, tedious for us to sort of get done, which essentially means that there is a need for a multi-stakeholder ecosystem that can bring in their expertise, who will take care of everything that sits around the technology. The ecosystem that works is the one that ensures from day one what will be the institutional mechanism of getting something done. How will the solution, the use case be institutionalized in the ecosystem? How will it be embedded within the framework we are speaking about, within the department, ministry we are talking about, within the problem area and the people who will be using it? That cannot be an afterthought. That has to be something that needs to come in from day one. And I'll give you a few examples, some of the solutions that we were able to deploy at scale and what helped them work. So we built a solution in education around oral reading fluency, essentially to assess students on their reading abilities. Right? Technology part, like I said, not very difficult to do. But this is not something that Vadhwani AI Global could have done alone. Right? This required a collaboration between government, ownership from government, and what Arunati also mentioned, that it is required for policymakers to own this problem. We as an organization came in as a facilitator, but the government of Gujarat was the one who led this entire initiative, who made sure that data is available, who helped us find the right partners who could then be leveraged to annotate some of this data. The other thing, rather than trying to create this solution in silos, what we also started thinking about is where will it get embedded, right? Tomorrow, if this has to be used, and there are tons and tons of applications that are already, being pitched to governments for education, pitched to teachers, how do you ensure that they actually get adopted? And one way to do that was to understand how is government currently running their programs. So we started working with government and their technical partner to work on this together. So rather than thinking about this as a solution that we have created and will give you an app, we started figuring out how can whatever we develop plug into the existing system, does not create a major change in the workflow of how teachers were already using technology in classrooms, wherever they were. And then how do you ensure that there is a monitoring mechanism established so that the government is now fully capable of not just following up on the adoption, but also to figure out if there's a genuine impact of technology, right? All of this was only possible because we had this collaboration between the government with the technical partner who government was working with, us being, the AI partner, and the partners who were working with government at school levels to help them programmatically, to help teachers build capacity on this, to help teachers understand it, to also counsel teachers, because there's also a constant threat about AI trying to replace jobs, right? So there's also that hand-holding that is required at field level. And as a tech organization, we could not have done that, right? So you need that partner as well. Moving to a slightly different example around healthcare, and we have done a lot of products in tuberculosis, and some of the things remain common around your government partnership, data collection through them, and your programmatic partnership. But what additional support we got was from ICMR. How can we start thinking about evaluating this from day one? Because health being a much more sensitive area, right, directly impacting the lives, when some of our decisions give outcome, but some of our models give those decisions, how do you ensure that evaluation and the success criteria is not an afterthought? So you don't just work with the government, you also work with the agency who will eventually evaluate it. So you are finally following from the first day itself how you should be optimizing for what parameters and what results. So these are some of the examples, Rob, that I can think of where technology, government, ecosystem partners played a role, came together and delivered something.
Thank you, Nakul. And just a quick follow-up on that. So Wadhwani AI Global is, how would you describe the space that you occupy in that? You're not government, you're not exactly private sector, you're kind of an integrator, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what we would like to call ourselves is a convener of technology, especially for social good. So our role essentially is to ensure there is an impact leveraging artificial intelligence, right? who all need to participate is something that we work with partners along, right? We work with governments, whether it requires capacity building, whether it requires advisory to the government, whether it's requires actual product development. We help government with everything, because what we have also realized is, while government is well intented, there is a need for a lot of hand holding, right? Because they have priorities, right? And artificial intelligence, while now it's become a buzzword, they still need a lot of hand holding in order to make sure that some of these solutions just don't end up living in labs and some of these rooms like this, but actually go on field.
Yeah.
So our role becomes even more important to make sure that everyone who needs to participate comes along, participates, and ensures that there is an actual impact on field.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason I asked that is because also to go over to Sachin, there are, kind of the roles of, private sector innovation, and there's the government role. The international organizations like UNDP have also bring a kind of multilateral and global perspective on some of these things. But, companies like Tata Consultancy also serve kind of in the middle there as well. And I'd love your perspectives on that same question, which is, where are you seeing multi-stakeholder partnerships resulting in tangible impact, and what are the conditions that really help to make those successful?
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, thanks, Robert. Thanks for having me on the panel, and good morning, everyone. Great to be part of this panel. I'll start. I'm a lifelong and a very proud Tata family member. I just want to start by stating the philosophy of our group, as was, stated by our founding chairman, Jamshedji Tata. This is almost 170-year-old group, and right back then, he has stated that in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in business, but is in fact the very purpose of its existence. And I think it's quite well known about, the overall philanthropic, community-facing, nation-building work that Tata Group companies have done over the years. I'm part of TCS. I head TCS Research. As you know, TCS, we bring technology live for our customers. In fact, we have been very proud partner of SBI, what Arundhati just stated, and lots of nation-scale initiatives in India where we could really bring some very interesting solutions on the top of digital public infrastructure that has come live in India. So we have a very unique vantage point, as I said, in terms of what's happening around the globe and the kind of problems that are being faced, across different industries, especially when it comes to sustainable development. So I want to sort of focus my response on 3 lines. As you stated that we need to build a very sort of robust and human-centric AI ecosystem for Global South. I think the 3 challenges, and Barbel just mentioned this, about governance and the gap between Global North and Global South. So I want to focus attention of everyone on 3 aspects. One is paucity of data and fragmentation of data and overall, availability of data. That's a big challenge. The other is compute, which is very essential. And along with that also comes energy, which is very critical, for us to sort of meaningfully exploit the potential that AI offers. And the third is talent, which is also very critical. So now I'm just going to share some perspective on this. I'll also talk about, what we have been doing as a company in this space. Just one sec. Yeah. So I think when it comes to data, I think, as you can imagine, and Nakul just mentioned the health domain, a lot of model building work has been done, but that's based on Western data sets. And that probably is not readily applicable, let's say, to India, or other countries, So fundamentally, data collection is very critical. You have to contextualize. It's not just true for health, it's true for any domain you look at. And yes, data is fragmented, siloed, that's true even within enterprise. It's of course true for at a bigger scale. I personally believe that bringing this data together is important to create an open data ecosystem. But I believe problem lies somewhere else. The problem lies in the sensing infrastructure that you need to put together to be able to have high quality, high volume, high velocity data. Take example of, for example, air pollution monitoring, right? Just think of that. You probably could do a much better job if you had sufficient number of sensors deployed across the region of interest. Probably they are going to be large in number. You will have to think of, how do you make it cheaper, faster, better? And having done that, it will also depend on, how you could analyze, process, and sort of derive insights. That's where AI will come in, right? So I think government can play a very big role in sort of catalyzing this and enabling sort of, putting together a great sensing infrastructure. Could be thought of, part of the digital public infrastructure. On top of that, private and public entities could innovate. Academicians and inventor community could innovate. So what are we doing here, right? So Indian government actually has been very proactive on the overall responsible AI mission. I was part of the task force that was set up by principal scientific advisor to Indian government, Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, on responsible AI. This happened about 8 years back. And we kind of tried to study the implications of AI and the responsible facet of AI in Indian context then. And following that, a lot of mission projects were launched. So as part of that, I have seen now there are different AI COEs supported by government. So we are part of AI COE for sustainability in collaboration with IIT Kanpur. And it's going live. In fact, some of you might have attended a session by IIT Kanpur team yesterday on this very same topic, where we are looking at a lot of interesting problems in overall sustainability domain. So that's just data. I just will make, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just watching the time. So if you just mention your other 2 points super quickly.
Yeah. So I'll just mention about compute. Which is again a very important facet. There is a big gap between what is available in global north versus global south. I have just 2 ideas to share. One is we should think of how we could repurpose the legacy hardware. Okay, and you would see that a lot of high-tech companies have innovated along that. It's not necessary that you need to have current latest hardware. You could do a lot of innovations around it. 2, of course, you should explore the new hardware that is becoming available. So TCS, IBM, and Andhra government have come together to create a quantum valley in India, which could open ways for that. So I think these are some quick remarks I thought I'd make.
Great. No, I mean, and the depth is incredible, right? And you're talking about these very concrete collaborations that are making this, a possibility. Okay, I think we'll go straight into just a quicker second round, and then we're going to go for some comments from you. And I want to bridge this now into, we've been talking about multi-stakeholder partnerships and how there are different roles across different parts and stakeholders that have different roles to play. But what's clear is that we also need collective action. And so I wanted just to kind of think about, okay, how do we move to kind of getting overall kind of collective action in these spaces for responsible use of AI that kind of gives that sort of global framing around it. And as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the things that we have been doing with as part of the Hamburg Sustainability Conference and the Hamburg Declaration on Responsible AI for Sustainable Development, is really looking at this space of collective action. So a couple years ago, we did the first Hamburg Declaration. We have about 50 organizations that have endorsed the declaration. It has a number of principles related to it around responsible use of AI. And Dr. Koffler, I'm going to turn back to you to ask you a question, especially about that process, which is, since the adoption of the Hamburg AI Declaration, what tangible progress have we seen, and what are the concrete actions that you think are now required to move from the higher level principles into sustained and scaled impact?
Well, thank you for mentioning the concrete action, because that's actually what really it is all about. We were coming up with that idea on Hamburg Sustainability Conference and on that paper, not because we want to create another paper or we want to create or invite to another conference. We really want to come up with commitments every stakeholder has to undertake when they are signing that memorandum. And so my ministry also was signing it, and we had concrete, tangible, measurable duties we have to fulfill, commitments we have to fulfill. I would love to give you a few examples. Yeah. In sake of time, I'm trying to be very short and very brief. For example, one of the commitments was training people. We were committing to train 160,000 people within 1 year. We fulfilled that already, and that's makes me very proud, because we were trained already 190,000. So that is the first step we were committing. We were committing to open up AI building blocks, 12 AI building blocks, especially for using AI to climate action. We are now by a number of 15. And we were also committing 30 AI data sets available as digital public goods, and we achieved 55 data sets. So, and that's what it's all about. We are not signing something we don't want to do, and then we have another year of time and applauding ourselves for signing something. We want to come up really with concrete steps, and that's what my ministry did until now. There are examples all over the world. We are working with partners. We are working, for example, in Kenya. There's about analyzing satellite data which makes them available for farmers. We are working with Cambodia, where it's about medicine, detect cervical cancer, for example. We are working with the Indian government. Your government is doing a fantastic project, including languages of the subcontinent, analyzing, we were just talking about it, analyzing the data sets for many languages which have to be included in the overall AI framework. So we are supporting Bashini by 9 data sets. We were supporting the collection. So that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And that would be my last sentence. I invite everybody in the room, and maybe you spread the thought, to join Hamburg Declaration, because it's we started that and it's continuing. Government should be part, private sector should be part, civil society should be part, academia should be part of that, and come up with concrete, measurable, tangible commitments which could be fulfilled or can be fulfilled then. So you're all invited. Next conference is in June 29th, 13th this year.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the QR code that you see on the screen here, it gives you more information. If you would like to endorse the Hamburg Declaration, just go to the website there. We're getting short on time for audience interaction here, but Sachin, really quickly, TCS endorsed the Hamburg Declaration last year. What progress have you seen since then?
So I'll just quickly point out to some activities we have been doing since then. So as I said, we are part of responsible AI deliberation in India and elsewhere. And we have launched a big program around it, where Carnegie Mellon is now our academic partner. And we are also talking to some Indian academics. As you rightly said, that these are very hard problems, and this requires, significant collaborations across sectors. We are also building our own technology to be able to evaluate, calibrate, and sort of help AI engineers build more responsible AI. It's called Trusty Platform. More details we can share offline. We are also very keen on greening of AI, and that requires a lot of resource-aware AI work. So this is again very significant, and that's something we are on.
Fantastic. And you just mentioned greening AI. That's one of the key principles of the declaration. Arundhati and Nakul, I'll turn back to you now for some quick thoughts before we go for some Q&A. Where do you think, as we look ahead, we've talked about the Hamburg Declaration as one sort of platform, but where do you see the strongest opportunities for new types of partnerships going forward? That things that maybe don't exist yet, but that should, or what do you think is the next wave of this?
As an organization, Salesforce from 2014 has had an office of humane and ethical use of technology. So this is something that I think, most large corporates have to have a self-regulatory feature. This is important because unless you self-regulate, you will have regulators coming down with a very heavy hand at some point of time or the other, and that is not something you want if you want to keep innovating. So that's something I think everybody, all of us should look at. And having said that, the other ways in which we can actually take part with the stakeholders is, to continuing to co-innovate with many of our customers, those who are interested, to take forward our participation in many of these forums that are there. For instance, the National Skilling Mission, the skilling mission that is undertaken by NASSCOM, which is the IT industry body. We also do internships in partnership with AICTE, which is the All India Council of Technical Education. So there are very many apex bodies that are willing to give us space for the private sector to come in and be part of the initiatives. And the advantage of going through them is they have far better reach to the colleges, to the communities, that enables us to actually bring our products directly to them. So I think, if we look at all of these, taking them together, that really makes a story much better and much stronger.
Thank you very much, Nakul. Same question to you.
Yeah. So, in interest of time, I'll try to be quick. Two things that we feel is missing in the ecosystem. One is this global repository of solutions that we're trying to work on. And this is not just like a DPG platform or a DPI platform, but even that can include private sector. If I am a startup in India, I've built a good tool, how do I sell it, deploy it in Ethiopia? It becomes very difficult right now. So is there an opportunity for us to create a marketplace of sorts that has shared solutions, shared playbooks, shared governance ecosystem, frameworks, has a talent pool that could be leveraged, who've worked on these solutions. So I think that's one thing that is currently missing. The other is around AI assurance. So is there an opportunity for us to create regional evaluation hubs, which are, for a given particular region? Because I see a lot of organizations struggle within country to get solutions evaluated. Now imagine a situation where we are trying to take solution from one country to other, but there is no clear guidelines around how the evaluation, yardsticks would differ from one country to another. So that could be another area of collaboration between, various organizations who can set this up together.
Well, great ideas from you both on very concrete things. Okay, so we have time for a couple of questions all right, we've got a lot of hands. We're gonna take a couple of questions at the same times, and then we'll just go back for one more round from the panelists for answers. So I think we'll start here, and then I saw another hand here. Maybe we'll try to do three quick ones. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
My question is to Mr. Robert and Nakul. So I want to ask is, in comparison to LLMs, your ChatGPTs, Geminis, what is the value being added in comparison to LLMs versus traditional ML? Your classical improvements over functions, etc.
Okay. Then there was a question over here. There are two questions there. Yes, gentleman in the blue, and then beside him.
My question is to Mr. Wadhwani. You talked about bringing together people. there are fragmented initiatives, there are fragmented enabling services, but they are competing. So how do we bring them together for a shared purpose and to create a bigger impact?
Okay.
Hi sir, hi ma'am. I'm current undergrad student of economics at University of Delhi. My question to you, ma'am Bhattacharya. First of all, I would like to understand from your perspective, having served in the private and in the public sector, how do you see all this debate that is around that SaaS as a service will be dead as a result of all this, but the context window, the context you have will actually be the most beneficial. So what will actually happen one might say that the valuation will be doubled by all these companies who are actually in this space. So in that context, if I ask you that, how do you create value for small enterprises that's happened? For TCS, for example, the valuation is around $100 billion. Cursor, which is a very new company, the valuation is $30 billion. So an employee count of 300 is creating so much value, and that's at 600,000 employee count is creating that value. So if in that context, will the democratization of software and tech actually happen, or is it just the big tech that will benefit out of it? There will obviously be the the benefit of people here and there, but in the larger context, who will benefit?
Okay, so some very technical questions here. Arundhati, do you want to start with that one first about how to create value for small companies?
Yeah, so, over here, I don't think we are talking merely about the value something creates on a particular day. And by the way, those values, they keep sliding up and down. Nobody really knows who's the winner in the race till the race is over, and the race is far from over, okay? So towards that extent, I would ask you not to be too, not to be too pressured or too influenced by things like SaaS is dead and the entire valuation will come to only these few companies and things like that. End of the day, if there are no users, what valuation will this company have? You need users. Now, who creates users? Users are created by many, many processes and methods, and only just having an LLM is not going to give you all of that. So a company, when it actually works, there are workflows, there are governance rules, there are auditability requirements, there is observability, there is everything in over there. And therefore, just to think about one particular development by some particular company making that kind of a statement, I think at this point of time is a little too ahead of its time. Things will shake themselves out. Having said that, it's also true that whether it be TCS, whether it be Salesforce, whether it be State Bank of India, or whether it be any other company, the ways in which we do our work is going to change. The ways in which people take in technology and that influences their lives will change. And companies that will be amenable to the change, companies that will take advantage of the change, are the ones that are going to sustain, are the ones that are going to go up in value. But my sincere request to you, because you're a youngster, is don't try to look at market cap while trying to create your company. Do the right things, the market cap will follow, okay? It's not market cap that makes you want to work. It's your work and your satisfaction and being able to get something that really and truly helps people improve their standards of living, improve the way they actually stay in this world. That is what should drive you, not the market cap numbers, okay?
Yeah, I think you just got an MBA. So, Sachin, you wanted to add quickly to that?
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Think of LLM as something that is worldwide, okay? And that's a great advancement of AI. But you need something that is industry-wise, something that is company-wise, something that is context-wise, task-wise, right? We are far from that. And there are lots of challenges. I mean, just before this, Arundhati and I were discussing the kind of data silos that exist, even within an enterprise, right? So we are looking at AI and agentic AI in particular is something that is going to bring more connectedness within enterprise. There is significant amount of work to be done. But you imagine now this combined intelligence, right? Where you have different agents coordinating and working together. will probably help us get more. So sum of parts could be more than whole. It's very likely scenario. There are challenges to get it done, okay? But nature of work may change, but there is plenty of work coming at us, and LLM has just solved part of the problem.
Yeah. Nakul, there were a couple questions about how do we bring people together for shared purpose, and a specific question, I think it was LLM versus ML. Is that what you were saying? Yeah. Do you want to take this?
Okay. So
And just, sorry, we've got just 2 minutes before we have to close the session, so just...
yeah. So LLM versus traditional ML, in our experience, what we have realized is in a lot of places, specifically because we work in impact sector, a lot of work we do is with ground level users. Resource is a big challenge, right? You're talking about situations where the mobile phones are very basic, internet is a challenge, adoption is an issue. In those scenarios, we have often learned that traditional ML models have worked much better to serve the purpose, and large language models have not been able to serve the purpose, and in a lot of cases not even deployable, right? So there are genuine technical issues because of infrastructure, because of low resource settings, which have not allowed LLMs to sort of reach where we would want them to reach, right? Second, in such cases, small language models or small AI is what we've been now moving towards, to have it serve very specific purpose rather trying to give general intelligence to, some of these users on field, right? So that's a very quick answer. I could have just gone on. To answer your question, sir, I don't think we are trying to eliminate competition. I think the way we should be thinking about this, that there are different ways organizations can collaborate, right? Some of them could collaborate based on geographical synergies. Some of them can collaborate basis on expertise, synergies. Some of them can collaborate basis at what part of the life cycle of this entire AI deployment they can collaborate on that. And absolutely, there will be consortia that will be created who will still continue to compete with each other, and that's a good thing to ensure that there's also quality in the market. But the idea is to foster collaboration where those synergies are possible. At least we start with that.
Thank you. So, sorry, sir, we're going to have to close the panel because we have literally 10 seconds left on the counter. I just want to say thank you very much to our panelists. We have gone from highest level government frameworks to questions about competitive landscape and how small companies can exist, or can prosper. But the through line to all of this is that it doesn't happen in silos. It cannot happen with only one stakeholder of society. This has to be multi-stakeholder, and we have to commit to collective action. So I again refer to the QR code if you're interested in the Hamburg Declaration that has more information on how to endorse that. Please join me in thanking our panelists for the excellent insights. And thanks to all of you, and good rest of summit to you.